Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition of Solution to Critical Issues, where we talk about the issues. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition. Oh, well, shucks, I get out. My goodness. Henry. Welcome to another edition of Solution to Critical Issues, where we talk about the issues that affect our very lives. We start the program by saying Al-Fatiha, and we'll say it in the Arabic language. I will say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. We will continue our discussion on Al-Fatiha, but we know that Al-Fatiha was not the first revelation. Some people may say, well, he's saying Al-Fatiha, and when you open the Quran, the first chapter that we read is Al-Fatiha. And of course, when the revelation was revealed, it was not first revelation. God be willing, we will read the first revelation to show you that. But Al-Fatiha came shortly after. But in the arrangement of the Quran, and I think rightfully so, Al-Fatiha was put at the beginning. It's the first surah of the Quran, which is said to be the seven most oft repeated verses that's repeated, because Al-Fatiha is repeated in the prayer of the Muslims throughout today. And as you know, the Muslim pray 5 times a day. So Al-Fatiha is said at least 5 times a day. But each prayer that we say, the Fajr prayer that's in the morning, it's called the morning prayer. It's the prayer before the dawn of the day. That has what is said 2 rakas, or some say 2 sections in Al-Fatiha. Then we move to the next prayer, which is called Dhuhr, or the midday prayer, or the noon prayer is called, and it has 4 sections of 4 rakas. And each section, Al-Fatiha, is repeated. So that's 2 and 4, that's 6 times that Al-Fatiha has been repeated. Then we move to the next prayer, which is called the midday prayer, that we call Asa. Asa, the word in Arabic is Asa. And we have 4 sections of 4 rakas in this surah also. So, in repeating these prayers, then we say Al-Fatiha, and we start off in a standing position. So Al-Fatiha is repeated when we're in the standing position. But then we leave from Asa till we go to Maghrib. And Maghrib is called the evening prayer. It's just before the nightfall. And we have three sections of three rakahs in uh, the Maghrib prayer. And we say Al-Fatiha in each section of that, which is three more times. And then the night prayer, which is called Isha, is four rakas or four sections again, and we say the Al-Fatiha in each section, well, when we are standing in the upright position 4 times. So when you add all that up, that's about 17 times a day. Now, those are just the required prayer. There are other prayers that we can pray uh, that's called sunnah prayers. These are not obligatory prayers, but uh, they can be prayed. And it's also said that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, also made these prayers. So they are called sunnah prayers. They are not obligated, but the Muslim pray these prayers for the extra blessings. And some of them can be done during the time of the obligatory prayer there in there. And also, they can be said at any other time of the day. You know, even if you did just the minimum, the five prayers with the 17 sections that is being recited during the day, that will make Al Fatiha the most repeated verse in the Quran, and it's repeated by Muslims all over the world. I sometimes give experience. I was in Africa, and of course, the language I speak is English, and trying to learn a little Arabic. But I met a brother from Senegal, and he did not speak English, and I did not speak his language either. But the only thing that we could say, that we could communicate together, was Al Fatiha. We could both recite the Al Fatiha, and the spirit that came about us doing that, because we didn't understand each other and the language that we spoke. But when we spoke Al Fatiha, it was like a universal language. And Muslims all over the world, all over the earth, they learn Al Fatiha in the Arabic language. This is just to show you how powerful that this language is in repeating Al Fatiha. So if I went to China and I don't speak any Chinese, I could learn, I could understand Al Fatiha even in China. If I went to Japan, anywhere in the earth, because we learned the Al Fatiha uh, in the Arabic language, which make it universal. So if I don't understand anything else, I'll understand the Al Fatiha. And with over a billion Muslims in the world today, um, we have that universal language that we can do. And of course, there's some people who speak Arabic fluently, and they can understand even if they're from China, if they're from other places. But the Al-Fatiha, we can go anywhere. So that means that I can go to China and I could follow the leader that's making the prayer in China, and I can understand and know what he's saying when he's in his standing position uh, of uh, of repeating the prayer. Can you see how beautiful that is? Can you see just the beauty that's in that? The universal. We don't have to go. I don't know any other religion that you can do that in. You see why we say Islam is a universal religion? It's because we have something that's universally that we can all understand. And you know, language is very, very important. And I know there's people who speak 5 different languages, 10 different languages, 20 different languages, even. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of languages that's on the earth that the human beings speak. But we all learn the Al-Fatiha in the Arabic language, regardless of what language that you speak. Now, as we said, we know that Al-Fatiha was not the first revealed revelation that came to Muhammad the prophet, peace be upon him. I want to just read you a little bit about the first revelation, which is called Ikra. Um, and to just give you the idea to show you how this religion was revealed. Now, one thing we have to say is some people in discussion, because we know Muhammad the prophet was the last prophet of God that came. And the revelation that he received is the revelation that concluded all of the other revelation. But we know it was not the first revelation that had been revealed to the human being. So, therefore, in the religion of Al Islam, the Muslim has to believe in all of the previous prophets, all the way from Adam, which is said to be the first prophet, all the way to Muhammad, in order to be a Muslim. And you know, some people put a little emphasis on it, but the word Muslim is enough. You know, some people say to be a true Muslim, you actually don't need all of that. But in order to be a Muslim, you have to believe in all of the revelation that was sent to Muhammad and before Muhammad. So we know Islam is not a new religion, but there's many different examples of that describe Islam and trying to do it in metaphors and things like this. Some description is that Islam is like the last brick that was put in the house. If you were building a house, it's the last brick. But the foundation, even though the knowledge in the beginning was not called Islam, the knowledge that was revealed to those who were called prophets and seers, and even by other names there throughout the history, that knowledge and revelation was Islam, even though it had not been named Islam. So some people say that since it was the completion, as Muslims say, of the religion, they think it was a new religion. But Islam, which means, when I say the word Islam, it means the submission to the will of God. And I say it like that because it's not only the human being that submits to the will of God, but all of the creation that God has made, that our Creator has made, the earth, the sun, the moon, the universe, all of the planets and everything submits to the will of God. Now, we know the story of the human being, that the human being was given what some refer to as a free will. Uh, it's been said a limited free will, because even in that will that God give us, we know in the end we all have to come back and submit to that will of God, willingly or unwillingly. So this to give you a better description when we are saying Islam, what we are saying, because a lot of times this is where the confusion comes, especially in communication. And communication is very, very important for us to understand each other, because when there's misunderstanding, we know what can happen through misunderstanding. Some of the scripture says that because of that, these misunderstanding, we have wars, and I think it says rumors of wars. We always wanting to go to war, even just to talk about those wars, the rumors of it, because of sometimes the misunderstanding of the human being. So when we say Islam and we say al Islam, which means the submission to God's will, we are covering everything, all of the religion, all of the good things in the creation that God have created to submit to his will. When we're saying this, we're talking about uh, the Christian religion, we're talking about the Jewish religion, which is called the Abrahamic faith, but Islam even covers more than that. It's universal. It covers all of the proper belief in the creation of God. And we know that this is what has divided the human being is the misunderstanding. Or sometimes we may have the right understanding, as we have discussed before on this program, how two people can be inspired to with that same type of inspiration, but they can be inspired to do different things. We talked about how that inspiration will inspire one person to become now what we call a doctor. And we got so many now different kinds of doctors, probably back in those days they just had a doctor. But now you got so many doctors that has been inspired to come into areas of specialty today. So, but how one doctor, if both is inspired to become a doctor, one may be inspired to become an eye doctor, one may be inspired to become a medical doctor. And in the medical field, there's many different fields, and even in the eye. And I say these things because I've been going to a few doctors there, and one eye doctor will send me to another eye doctor. I'm wondering, well, I thought he could do the job, but they specialize even more specialists than it used to be, because you back in the days we our doctor just it took care of everything, but now you got the specialty of the different type of eye doctors, and there's so many of them I can't name them all. And we know in the medical field, look like there's just 100 different doctors, different position of doctors, and probably more than that they go. But what I'm saying here is the inspiration that we get. We may both be inspired, but we inspired in different ways. And that inspiration should bring about a knowledge. So, and that's what make us different. And God tells us, Allah says in the Quran that I created you different, meaning not so much our physical differences, even though we can find differences in our creation, but in our basic creation, we know we're all the same. As we say in this religion, is that our father Adam, we were built on that foundation. And the normal human being, what is considered normal physically, is based on that foundation of Adam. Everything that Adam had, this is what we have. And anything that's outside of Adam is called abnormal, sometimes referred to as deformed. saying these little things because I think it's important that we understand these differences. And God again says that He created us, He made us different for a reason. Nothing that God has done in His creation was for just sport and play or with no reasoning behind it. So we should look for the differences or the reasoning of our differences. Why? So we could get to know each other and not war with each other because of those differences. He says, I made you different so you would get to know one another and not despise one another. You see how knowledge and all knowledge, we said, and I've heard this said, all knowledge comes from God. So if the knowledge comes from God, and one there's one God, there's one creator that we can agree on, even in the different understandings of religion, we usually can come to the point that we agree that there is just one God. Even if you had many, you got one that's superior to the other. So you got one God, but there's one. And in Islam, al-Islam, it says one and only, meaning there's nothing else that can be God besides God in that. But I wanted to just make that clear, and I think that that understanding inspiration will maybe open someone else's mind and thought. And I'd like to hear from you later in the program on these things because they are important. And the reason I say that they're important is because if we don't take knowledge that will benefit you and benefit me in the knowledge that we are sharing, then it's no good. If I can't say a word, as is said in religions, to say a word to the right, and we understand what it is, in other words, to say a word of inspiration that will help an individual rather than because words, we know words can be used for you and they can be used against you there. And some of us more mature people, we can tell you some of the words that sometimes can be used against you there, especially when we were, as they say, brought up in the older days. Sometimes just the words that was used can hurt a person or they can inspire a person. But God also addressed those, say we always should say a word to the right. We always should say a word to help a person. There's sayings in this religion that says, support your brother. And when we say brother, we are not just talking about male, we're talking about the human being, but it's given in the masculine sense. But it shouldn't be looked at that, oh, we're talking about the male. And because I've heard this, that, hey, the religion of Islam, the woman is inferior. No, it's not. When we are saying brother, even though we're addressing it, maybe we could use a better word, but we say your brother, say support, and we could say the human being, support the human being when he's right and when he's wrong. And they asked Muhammad the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, well, how do I support my brother when he's in the wrong? And to me, I thought that was a good question. He said, you support your brother when he's wrong or when she's wrong by holding them back from the wrong. You have to tell them today. It ain't just got to be physically holding them back, which if you can do that, hold them back from that wrong too. But the word that you speak, that you tell them a lot of times will hold them back from the wrong, because a lot of times they're doing the wrong because they either have been misunderstood, or they have been inspired by what we refer to as the evil forces that tries to take us away from the natural path of God. And some of us have different names for that. We refer to that force as the devil. Uh, we refer to it as the Satan, because it's another spirit or mindset that takes us away from the natural path of God. And there's many examples in the different religions that gives this. I remember the example that was given in the Christian religion that was dealing with Job. I believe his name was Job, and it gives you that example to try to show you how, when you are even trying to do right and you trying to do those things that will benefit, and you trying to submit your will to God, you trying to do everything that God wants you to do, and you become successful even in these things. You see the success behind it. You can't let your guards down, because we know how that story went. That in that story of the Job, that how he was able to do all of these things because of his submission to God, but that influence of that evil one that we call the devil or Satan came in, and he began to make those successes look like a curse. And some of you who know the story, you know how the end of it went, how it went. And sometimes now you're struggling to do the right thing. You're struggling to do God's will that you believe that God wants you to do. But look like everything in the whole world look like it comes against you. And you have to struggle through that. Say, I was successful yesterday in doing these things, but today trying to do them is almost, as some say, impossible. Which brings me to the thought uh, that we say in this religion here, that when God was making His creation, and He was creating His worlds, because there's many worlds that God has created. But when He was making His world, He showed His angel that you call Gabriel or Jabril. He showed him. And when his angel looked at this world that God was making, he says, my Lord, but such a beautiful world. How can anyone go wrong in a world like this? Then God showed him instantly after that his world, God's world, after Satan had influenced God's world. Because Satan can't create anything on his own. He has to take something that was created by our creator to make it seem like he did it. So, but when he showed his angel this, his angel Gabriel or Jabril, he said, my Lord, how can anyone go right in a world like this? And when we look at that in today's thing, we can ask that same question. How can anyone go wrong? And we can also say, how can anyone go right? Well, I just wanted to set that. I do see we do have a hand raised. Look like Khalida Akbar. Assalamu alaikum. Did you have
Walaikum
your hand?
assalam, brother Imam. Walaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you so much for your presentation today. It's excellent and it's reinforcing the belief systems that we have as believers and Muslims, and also teaching our new shahadas about salah, prayer, etc. I had a comment in reference to Prophet Job.
Yes.
You were speaking about Job, not Jonah, correct?
Right, Job. Yes.
Okay, I was thinking about Jonah and how
Yeah.
he turned away.
Yeah, we
But
got
okay,
some
so
about our brother Jonah there too. But
we're going to go ahead
yes,
with what you were saying because I was thinking about when enough is enough. Because with Jonah, he kind of threw in a towel, but it wasn't. Allah didn't want him to do that. But there are times when Allah says His earth is spacious. So we'll talk about that later because it just occurred to me that you did say Prophet Job and all the tests that he had with his family and
yes,
his health, but he kept the faith and Allah blessed him to recover. So thank you for sharing that.
right.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, I was using that example in this talk because we have to see it as one of our instructors, sir, in teaching us Arabic. He says, "How do you see it?" And he don't want to no, don't tell me how other people what they say or what they. How do you see it, and how do you see it today? Because a lot of times when we're reading scripture, we read it as though we're reading history of something that happened long time ago, but we cannot related to today. And a lot
Mhm.
of the scripture that is written, even though it look or appears to be history, some of it you go back in history and you can't find those things in history. You can only find them in scripture. So that means it's not just for that time, it's for all time. So it'll be
Yes.
it's for now, it's for then, it's for now, and it'll be for the future also. So we have to expand our mind, expand our heart to be able to accept and to see those things by that inspiration. But thank you for that those comments. Sister Martha, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam and alhamdulillah. Peace to everyone. Alhamdulillah. My mind is just going so many places, but I'll go to two areas here. Thank Allah for you. Um, the the reference to how can, as you mentioned about Angel Jibril, and even when I use that language now, Imam, because we're recognized, we, when I say we, those who are studying and making the connection between of the creation of ourself, our God's will, and the creation outside of ourselves, seeing the sun, the moon, the stars, and the air and all of that. The reference now here is Angel Jibril saying, how how can anyone go wrong, and then how can anyone go right? Well, I'm going to liken that to going to school when, as a child, and going through first grade on to the 12th grade. And there was this whole lineup already prepared for how we were going to be established in the land, in this life. And after we finish 12th grade, then you go on to higher knowledge studies or what have you, if you chose. But what took our mind, and then I go back to Prophet Muhammad, prayers and peace be upon him, time when children going through their stages of development, they were taken out into the creation, the whole makeup of the creation, as well as the creation of themselves. But they definitely studied the outer creation, and the influence of it all is connectivity and how we have to respect it. So when it's about to rain and you see those clouds or what have you, and or
Mm-hmm.
storm or all of the other things that go with that. Well, I was watching the sky the other night, well, which was Tuesday night, and the moon was at my southeast. And then last night when I looked, the moon was at the southwest. I
Mm-hmm.
never pay. So how can we go wrong? We can go wrong because we lose that connection with the creation around us. And it's right, the moon has been doing that, I guess, all this time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and then there was a period where man mind evolving to study creation, but getting the wrong concept because of what things appear to be until they geologically or anthropologically or whatever they study the sciences. And so now I'm
Mm-hmm.
so appreciative of that. And last thing is, I was speaking with my grandson who's going to be 29. He's come to a realization at that particular cusp in his life that he says, Grandma, he says, I've finally realized that I can step around people and
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
attitude that will influence me to attack the energy in him to respond in a negative way. So
Yes.
he's learned to develop that system in his life now to understand what peace really means. And so he says, thank you for teaching us, even though we gave them that abstract language and
Mhm.
teaching them from Imam Warthi Muhammad's language and logic. For those who understand Imam Warthi Muhammad's the character of such, now he can apply it.
Mhm.
So we should not think that children will not evolve from that abstract, because the creation of the physical will take them to that point as well.
Right.
Alhamdulillah.
Mhm.
Thank you so very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, 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 it is. Like you say, and we just scratch the surface to try to get people to think, because the Quran addressed the thinking man in the thinking, and you have to be a thinker to be uh, to be productive in the world. And the Quran encourage the Muslims, and we say Muslim, and I really hate to use those terms because people, when we say it, they make it a sect or a religion, and we know Islam in its proper use of the word Islam, meaning the submission of submission to the will of God. And that's everybody, even because, we as human beings, we have developed these languages. But again, as we say, God told us to help our brother. And we know that mean help the human being, not only the human being, but his creation. We know that there's other stories about how he put the human being as the Khalifa, and some says Khalifa is the leader, and others say Khalifa is the custodian. That's too big. That's a big spread between language and words and what words mean. One as a leader, but the other as a custodian, and they're both equally as important. One is no more important than the other, but the role is different. We have to be in the role of a leader, and we also have to be in the role of a custodian. In other words, nowadays they would say a janitor, one who go and clean up things, when they get dirty. So we have to be in both of those roles as a human being when we are placed over God's creation. There's so much more we can say, and all of these words, as Imam Muhammad has told us, that words make people. Words make people, as you were saying, how we making the children when they're attending school. But he says words don't mean, people give the meaning to those words. So we're going to go to our next caller here, Sister Amira Shaheed. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Amira Shaheed. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Brother Henry. Thank you so much for what you're sharing with us this morning, and the connections, the noteworthy connections that you're making. It makes it so easy to comprehend. It's like following a path, and you just connect the dots going forward, forward, forward. That makes it easier for us to be able to receive what you're saying. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. And Sister Khadija Akbar. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. I just wanted to come back and question about the threshold of each human being because Allah made all of us unique. And what
Mhm.
one person can tolerate, the other person may not have that threshold in that same capacity, but they may
Yes.
have it at another end. And we have to also pay attention to, as we said, the sciences. Some people get ill under certain pressures and stresses, where other people may have a higher threshold. But ultimately, we definitely have to, as Sister Martha was saying, pay attention to signs in creation and also know how to adapt or to, as Allah says, to travel throughout His creation, or to migrate if need be, because it definitely has an impact, a physiological impact on the human body, any amount
Mhm.
of stress. So even if you are stepping around fitna and you're able to move, it's still impacting you. It
Mhm.
subconsciously impacts you. It impacts your cells. It impacts every part about you. That's why when you go to the doctor and you're under undue stress, they tell you to remove yourself from that, or they give you strategies to reduce it or deal with it. So we want to also acknowledge that there are different thresholds as human beings.
Oh,
We are unique.
yes.
And
Oh,
Allah gives
yes.
us signs within our own selves and systems, even though we're all human beings, we all have a different set of fingerprints. And so we need to know ourselves as well as studying the creation and not be sometimes over what is that compensating and over
Yes.
tolerating, especially as
Mhm.
African Americans, because we suffered so much. We think we got to pull everybody out of the ocean, but Allah has given every human being a moral compass, and He has given them the same capacity to pull themselves out. You teach, but then you let the student get up and do, and you let the student produce. That's what Imam Muhammad was saying. Give me a good future. He taught till he couldn't teach no more, and
Mhm.
He's still teaching us, and we're still studying His language and still evolving. But He said, give him a good future. He knew he wasn't going to be here forever. We're not going to be
Mhm.
here forever. So each generation has to come forth. They have to acknowledge, learn, interpret it, and do what they can do as Khalifa. That's how the world is going around. If everybody was dependent on being fed from the same vessel, understanding it
Mhm.
at the same time, moving together. I think we misunderstand what unity means. We wouldn't have the world as it is today. The engineers, the people who were creative wouldn't have created anything. We would all still
Mhm.
be taking baby steps. But you have to understand that Allah, when He inspires you to listen obediently and move forward, so everybody can eventually benefit from you, and then they can chart their own course to their creator as Khalifa. But thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for those comments. Is like I said, so many areas that we'll never explore the fullness, and this is why we say, even though we talk about our Creator, a God that some refer to, we say Allah. Even though we'll never see our Creator God in His fullness, and conversating with the people, I say to them, I say, we, from what I see, we do not have the capacity, that God has not given the human being the capacity to see Him in His fullness. But the capacity that He do have so much in it that it lasts a lifetime and more than a lifetime. And like you were saying, Imam Muhammad said, and I remember those words when he said, "Give me a good future." There, he was talking more than just his physical. And he gave us some examples in some of his lectures there. How I think the name was Methuselah, I believe it was. That they say lived to be 950 years old, and he was able to show us that, hey, don't just think about physical, because that's where that's the first place the mind go, to the physical, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't stay there. So he says, was not the physical, it was his influence that lasted 950 years. So that makes more sense to the minds of the human beings. So now you could see, and you could accept that readily. You could say, oh, because I don't know. Matter of fact, I was at think about dentist's office here. No, this is another doctor. I've been going to doctors all this week. I'll tell you the truth. I go to so many of them, I don't know who they are. But anyway, this is another neurologist, I think that was it. But anyway, he was saying, yeah, you're doing pretty good for a 71-year-old man. So I told him, well, you're really talking to a 150-year-old man. I say, and he didn't get it. He didn't get it, and I know he didn't get it, but I told him anyway. I say, so now you can tell your other patients that you treated a 150-year-old man. But he couldn't get it because he couldn't get out of the realm of a physical age. And he said he's seen a person that lived to be 110 years old. But I dropped that on him, and maybe he may give some thought to it later. What this man who say he's 150 years old is talking about. But my wife don't like me to joke when I'm at the doctor's office there, so she didn't like it so much either. But I told him you're talking to a 150-year-old man here. But so we have to see the things on the different level that we are addressing. And once we get up out of the spirit, because they show that in different ways, especially in the movies and things that you see. Sometimes you'll be watching a movie and they'll show the man's spirit that whoever the person is leaving the physical body, and it looks like him, but in a lighter sense. You all probably have seen this before. They're showing the example of his spirit rising above just his physical level. And man don't have to die for this to happen. You see it happening, but the understanding, as we said in the beginning, that's what caused the wars and the rumors of wars, as some of the scriptures say. That's what caused these disagreements by not trying to understand each other in what we're doing. You can be right in what you're saying, and I can be right in what I'm saying, but we may not be talking on the same level. Yeah, but I do appreciate those comments. And we got another caller. Wow, who is this? Miss Joyce Haseeb. Assalamu alaikum. Well, I guess she didn't want to say anything. Oh, yeah, that's she. Joyce Haseeb. Assalamu alaikum, Joyce Haseeb. You have your hand raised. You had to press *6 to say anything.
Assalamu alaikum. I forgot.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'm sorry.
I hope I'm not about to be whipped, y'all. Sometimes you can be whipped and you don't have to be touched.
No,
So,
I just
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Just to make a
You
statement.
need to talk up a little bit.
You've been talking about the Muslim there, and Allah says He made everything is Muslim. Anything that submits, and anyone submits His will.
You need to talk
Almighty.
up just a little bit more. We can't hardly understand you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Let's see.
Yeah, just talk up a little bit more, get a little closer.
Okay. As you were talking about Muslim there, yes, we're all Muslim. God made everything's creation Muslim to submit to the will, to His will, and what its purpose is. But the difference between other things and the human being is that we want to become a conscious Muslim. And when we become a conscious Muslim, we want to work on, we're aware of the things that we're doing, or we try to be aware of some of the things that we may be doing. And when it comes to pleasing the Almighty Allah, we want to stay focused on that, pleasing Allah. And when we become a conscious Muslim, that means if I heard then you want to hurt for me. When you hurt, I want to hurt for you because you're my brother and sister, and that's what we should want to do. And that's what serving God means to me, is that when we care about the least of these, when we want to help our brothers and sisters and not tear them down. And being a conscious Muslim, we even the Prophet had a jinn until he made his jinn Muslim. So we want to always be aware of that jinn that's within us, who's constantly trying to take us away and from our focus of being focused on Allah and focused on being kind to one another and showing that we care for one another. And when you realize that you may have said something to someone, or you may have done something to someone that wasn't quite right, and when you aware that you know how that jinn operates, and when you learn how that jinn is and how he operates, then you would be able to go back and say, I'm sorry, I hurt you, I was wrong. So that's what being aware of that inner self in you, that's the jinn, that his main goal, the Satan, is to keep us unfocused and not wanting to help one another, to always want to tear each other down. So that's what I wanted to express this morning, that, the Prophet made his jinn Muslim. It's a part in the Quran that says, where he frowned, he passed by a person and he frowned. And so he realized that. And so that's what we want to be able to make our jinn Muslim. Prophet Muhammad made his jinn Muslim because he understands now how that jinn operates. It's not always maybe going to do something wrong, to steal something. It's how you treat each other. And that's what my concern is now for us, to be aware of that jinn within us and say we're going to work on that jinn, trying to make that jinn in us a Muslim so we can refrain from hurting each other. So that's what I wanted to convey this morning. It's been on my heart. And keep up good works on this program, AM 360. It's a good avenue and outlet for people all around the world. You're providing great information, beneficial information, and we appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, that jinn, in my conversation sometime with other people, and we talk about, I use it in the Christian language where they say that and I know that's another conversation, this angel, the angel that we talk about, that there was a chief angel, an archangel, I think they refer to it as. And I say, there was no devil around until the human being came. But that's another talk. But you're right. We have to be careful. And if we look at the making, not the creation, but the making of a devil, because that's a question that's asked too: did God make the devil? And when we understand it, and then we begin to study what God made, and it was because of that disobedience of what God made, that unwillingly to submit to the will of God, that unwillingly that brought about this spirit, or whatever we call Satan or the devil. But thank you for those comments. Our sister Amira Shaheed, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. I want to also thank Sister Joyce for her heartfelt message that she gave to us this morning. It was so necessary. It was so necessary and so appreciated. So thank you so much, Sister Joyce. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much for that. Those comments. I started off by saying that I was going to read Ikra, but even though we did not physically read the words or the revelation of that surah, I believe we have been talking about it, because that fourth ayat say, he who taught the pen taught the social creature that which he knew not. There, I think we've been talking about Ikra, and inshallah, maybe sometime in the future we'll get a little bit deeper into it, because there's so much more. It's so much more that we could do, but we have to be able to relate. And I guess I'll never forget the experience that I had when I was in Africa with the brother that I was in, and we couldn't communicate. And the beauty that I didn't say is after we both recited the Al Fatiha together, because we just, as some say, we sung it or we hummed it. But in the reciting of the Al Fatiha, that we could relate. After we recited it, we gave each other a big hug. So that was so there. But just to show that, hey, we are brothers, and that's the way the human being should be. There, we may not be able to speak each other's language, we may not even understand each other in the different fields that we do, because as I say, we get different inspiration. We may not be talking on the same level sometime, but we do have to have that. And Allah tells us that, hey, you're gonna have disagreement, but those disagreements should bring out something positive. If they bring out something positive, then we say Alhamdulillah. But if they bring out something bad, then we know we've been influenced by the negative part of that gene, which can make a devil. So we definitely have to keep that gene, as we call him, that spirit, in check, especially especially when we realize that God did not put that spirit, as some people think, that God did not put that spirit in charge of his creation. He put the Khalifa, he made the Khalifa and asked everything else to submit to that he had created. Well, it's been good being here with you today. Well, we got a few hands too. Sister Martha?
Yes, real quick. The more I think of when I think of the jinn now, I think of that I can make it to Jinnah when I work with my jinn being submissive, but the jinn can submit, but the shaitan is out of the submission role. It
Yeah,
cannot. When
he
we get, we can, as long as the jinn is with us, we can
right.
cause it to submit. And two, so we weren't born in sin. That so that, no one would get that concept. Alhamdulillah.
Right. Well, you're right. It's so much on that. Like the when Allah asked and said, why didn't you submit what I asked you?" He said, "Because I'm made out of fire without smoke." And we'll talk about that one day, the smoke and all. What some of the explanation of that smoke there. But yes, you're right. We have to sometimes beat that gene in submission. I know my wife is always telling me, "Hey, don't let that gene get up." So she knows she can stop me there, and she started talking about that gene. But Sister Khadija.
Yes, really quickly. According to the sciences, when people are self-actualized, when they are studying and growing themselves, they are less likely to be conflictual. They are happy people, don't react the same to certain situations as people who feel like they're not adequate. They haven't gone after their life goals. They're not happy within themselves. Usually when people's jinn overtakes, it's because they don't have a balance. They don't have access to resources, or something's going on, or they just don't have a good self-esteem. So if we can take that science and know that we're still human, we're not above any human emotions as Muslims, Christians, whatever, and that we can actually work on our own value systems and build ourselves a healthy self-esteem and work after your personal goals. When you get into a group and someone's like way up here, we've all been there, like, wow, it won't be intimidating. You can appreciate the beauty in other people when you have a healthy self-esteem, and you're able to also set your own goals and educate yourself and go after your goals. A lot of, especially African Americans, we have an inferiority complex in some point, and even when we're amongst each other, when we see people who have accomplished certain things. So we know that none of that means anything. Allah's going to read our hearts. We all have equal access to Jannah, and that we should appreciate the beauty in other people's intellect and cultivate our own. And when you do that and have a
You're right.
healthy
It's
balance,
so much.
then
It's
yeah.
so much we can say on that.
Yeah.
We're out of time here, but
Okay.
we're gonna maybe talk about sometime in the future the jinn that was made Muslim. So that's
Yes.
another whole talk. Probably take a few weeks to to get that one, but we'll talk about that. But it's been good being with you. We look forward to seeing you next week on another edition of Solution to Critical Issues. We now bring our brother Adam Beyah with Money Sense. And I say, if we get we with whatever we got, we need some sense with it, Adam, whether we got money or not. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Brother Henry. How are you and how's
All right,
everybody?
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Hope everybody's doing well. Got it. Okay. I see everybody's taking notes. Maybe I can understand the necessity of doing that, but anyway, alhamdulillah. Hope everybody's doing well. I want to kind of talk about today something I read from Imam Muhammad on economics and morality, which is similar to what you were discussing. But before I get into that, let me read something from the Quran, which I hope can be applicable, inshallah. And this is from Surah to Arif, which is the 7th surah of the Quran, the 31st ayat, for those who might want to read along, inshallah. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya bani Adama khudhu rinatakum inda kulli masjidin wa kulu washrabu wa la tasrifu innahu la yuhibbul musrifin. Sadaqallahu azim. In the translation, as given by Abdul Yusuf Ali. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. O children of Adam, wear your beautiful apparel at every time and place of prayer. Eat and drink, but waste not by excess, for Allah loveth not the wasters. Sadaqallahu azim. Allah speaks the truth, and surely Allah's words are true. And just to talk about that word that was translated as wasters, another place that was root of that word was used to talk about extravagant ones or the transgressors. And so we know that excess is real simple. The state or instance of surpassing the usual, proper, or specified limits. It means unnecessary. It's also translated to be extravagant. And that also means exceeding the limits of reason or necessity. And the last word has been translated as transgressor. One who violates a command or law and they had in parentheses sin, to go beyond a boundary or limit. So in every one of those meanings, it talks about limits, specified limits, going beyond what's reasonable or necessity, right? And violates a law or sin. What keeps that in check is all of them talk about some kind of limits, whether it means the norms. Again, when you use the word norms, you're talking about something with structure on it. You know, many times you might know somebody and you'll say, well, he's not normal. Well, it depends on what's defined as normal. When you define something, you're putting a structure on it, you're putting limits on it, you're putting a face to it, and you're saying it's not normal, right? When you look today, in today's reality, the actions don't change, but what has changed is the norms have changed. And that's what a lot of times we're not used to. What used to be normal before is not, or what was considered unnormal yesterday has become normal today because the structure, the boundaries in that whole thing have moved. And we're seeing that more and more today, that the boundaries have been stripped away. So there's nothing to keep those behaviors from being within a normal structure. So when you go out into the environment, things that used to be normal, things that we could count on as being normal when we were growing up, are gone. I remember one of Imam Muhammad's lectures, he said that our actions were better when things were worse for us. That our actions were better. So you would think that today that the environment is still operating on the fact that things are worse for us today, when in actuality, things are not worse for us today. What changed in that statement that the Imam gave us? What changed? Did our actions change, or did the things that was done to us change? What changed? So our actions changed. Not what was done to us changed. And this is something Muhammad was talking about maybe 20 or 30 years ago. As a matter of fact, the lecture I was reading of the Imam was in 1985. I think it's 1980. Yes, November 1985. And he was speaking on that fact back then. So the things he was trying to warn us about back then, or shedding light on us back then, have really developed to more of a fuller problem with us. Have really developed. So going beyond the limits. One thing that we have that can work in our favor, should be working in our favor, is that we putting guardrails on our actions based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. As Muslims, we have guardrails. We have those things in place that really defines what excesses are to us. We have things in place that really define what is extravagant. And we definitely have things in place to tell us what transgression is all about. And that's something the broader society has lost. That the broader society has lost. I can say that my topic today is, I was looking at, and see how I got here. Oh, how I got here. I'm looking at today's economy. And everybody's saying, hey, we're almost into a recession, or the economy is not working for us, right? Fearing the economy. The high prices, inflation. And we can bear with this. When we go out there, I mean, things are costing more than they used to cost. And people are worried about inflation. But when the economists study the environment, they don't say that we're in inflation or as much. When they study the numbers, they said the inflation rate is like 3.5% or 4%, which is a little bit higher than normal, but it's not pure inflation. So it's confusing them. But when you, let's say in our community, I'll say the poor community, unfortunately, most of us, alhamdulillah, we might be doing, a few of us might be doing good. But for the lion's share of our people, it's not the case. I'm not sure how it is where you are. But what I see every day when I leave my house, when I see every day when I leave my office, I see people on the lower rungs of society and how they're faring. I guess a good gauge for me is when I come out my office and I see how many people are panhandling, how many people are walking, how many people are pushing grocery carts that don't contain the food that they bought at the grocery store they just left, but that contain their household goods, their belongings. I see that. And that's my gauge on how things are going in this economy where I am. I'm not sure what your gauge is where you are. Maybe you live in a nice suburban community, mixed race community. maybe the majority of people in the community live in are non-African American. So you don't see that. And you don't see that. So it's hard for you to gauge. You have to gauge based on what's on television, what's on the network news, what's on the internet. But I gauge what I see in terms of real people. Now, one thing I see when I noticed that being in this military town, that people that own shopping carts, I say own shopping carts, I see that you see more and more Caucasians owning shopping carts. And it's probably some of them have, well, probably most of them have mental problems, but that's a problem with a military town. That's the problem with a lot of veterans lack the mental or the mental help that they need for whatever reason. So I see that too. I heard a statement, and maybe somebody else might have heard this, and you can comment on it. I couldn't remember. I didn't write it down. I probably was driving when I heard it, whatever. I didn't write it down. That was my bad. He said, today people are paying cash for what they want and credit for what they need. And they were probably talking about it on several levels. Maybe they were talking about in the poor communities that might not have as much cash as they need, but they're taking some of the cash that they have and they're expending it on wants and not on needs. Right? So there's an appetite operating somewhere that caused them to do that. And because of that, they suffer even more. Their family goes without what they need more because they're so occupied in getting what they want and not what they need. That's one of the things. And then that whole thing of cash and credit takes a whole new spin. On social media, they always, the people that are talking about wealth creation, and they had this debate, cash versus credit. And they're saying that people, one of the things that they recommend is you buy your stuff with credit. Right? And they are saying if you have to see when you just hear these things and act on them without really studying what they're saying, you'll see that they're saying that, and they recommend the whole process, you use your credit card, but they also say pay it off at the end of the month. Pay it off at the end of the month. Don't let it go to a point where you're paying interest on that. So that if you pay it off at the end of the month, most of these cards have reward programs or whatever, where you gain points or you gain other benefits that you wouldn't have if you paid cash straight out. So I'll start doing that. I charge things during the month. At the end of the month, I pay it off. right? I don't past due it. I don't let it get to a point where I'm paying interest on anything. And then I would take the benefits I get anywhere from 2 to 3% bonus rewards from doing it that way. So I say, well, take the 2 or 3% bonus rewards. Don't give it, take that money and put it in this account. So during a year's time, I have $900 in the account that money went to, that I accumulated from bonus rewards by using a credit card and not paying cash. If I had taken the cash and spend it like that all at one time without getting those bonus points, I wouldn't have as much in my bank account from the little bit of interest that they're paying on the savings account, which I don't know why they call it a savings account. That might be a help. You can, everyone on here, go to your bank and ask them how much they're giving you on your savings account. What's your rate of return on your savings account? And if you're getting 1%, you're doing good. Now, if you're getting 1% on your savings account, and most people are probably not getting that much, and inflation is 3%, that sounds like you got a losing account, not a savings account. But if the bank said, come invest in one of our losing accounts, how many of you will put money in the account if they called it what it really was? I'm just saying, I know probably many of you won't do it, but see, I'm bold enough. I ask people all the time, and I ask to tell it. I don't know why I miss to tell it, because they're nice people, and they don't have any say so on what the bank charges. They don't have that kind of responsibility. So I know. So, and I know they didn't go to ask their boss, the branch manager, why they call it savings accounts. And when I come back the next week, they're still there, so I know they didn't ask them. Anyway, so Imam Muhammad, in this article, he said that inflation is a moral problem, not an economic problem. It's a moral problem. Because most American consumers have taken the guardrails off of their life. They don't have the guardrails. And as Muslims, we're supposed to have guardrails. Following the Quran, we don't have we should have guardrails. The Quran is our guardrail. So that we don't deal in excess. We don't deal in a situation of extravagance to where it affects our lifestyle. And definitely we don't become transgressors, going beyond the limits. And we know Allah sets limits on us in the Quran. And that should be our saving force. So I want to open it up right now, see if anybody wants to make a comment, or we can discuss this a little bit. just a little bit. All right. We got a couple of hands up. Brother William Kareem, yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Take yourself off mute, Brother William.
Yeah. Wa alaikum assalam. Oh my gosh, man. What a presentation this morning, man. I was surprised to hear that down there in your area, man, that they got shopping cart people. I thought that only happened in the big cities. New York. you know, people, like, man, there's so many people out there on the streets, like just, I don't want to say begging, but they trying to find their way regarding that. And I think that it happens because they people are getting a benefit out of it. They say, I got a guy that, right across the street, he, well, hold on for a second.
Yes.
Yeah, he sits right out in front of the store and waves at everybody who comes by, and then people, kind of, just walk around. But I guess it works for him because he's out there, every day. So it's like he's getting something out of it to that degree. And the other point about the losing account, is very true. In my bank, one of the popular banks, they don't even give 1%. They don't give 1%. And if they did give 1%, it would be like, what would I say? If it was $1, they would give a penny. For every dollar, they give a penny. Isn't that how that would be if they give 1%?
No, they would give a penny if you held it in the bank for a year.
So you got to have $1 in the bank for a year in order to get that 1%, to get that penny.
Yeah, if it's less than a year, you divide that penny by, let's say you have it in there for 6 months. That's a half year, right? You would only get 50 cents.
You only get 50 cents.
Correct.
Right. So we got to get our mathematics together.
Not 50 cents. You would get 50.
No, a half a penny. A half a penny.
Half penny. I'm sorry.
Half a penny. A half a penny. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then the other point. The other point was a whole thing about appetite, and you said that we should because we Muslim, and I can agree with that to some degree on this basis that we should, at least as Muslims, we should be aware. Other people might not be aware that they're controlled by their appetites.
Right.
But as Muslims, we should be aware that we're controlled by appetite to a great degree. And even though the environment that we live in is always calling us, to fulfill the appetite, whether it's with fast food or whatever, coffee or whatever, or Friday the eagle flies and you got a couple of dollars in your pocket and you got to go ahead and you got to buy something. I mean, we get into it too, even as Muslims, but we should, at least as Muslims, be conscious enough to say, well, you know what, I'm a little bit out of control here. Let me get myself back in control. That's the comment I want to make. Thank you, brother.
All right, thank you very much, Brother Wayne. All right, Brother Ishmael. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir. Very, very important topic you're talking about. And yeah, I've seen that data where people are relying on credit for necessities rather than, discretionary spending, like we used to say. So I think it's up like to 55% of people depend on credit cards now because of high inflation. It's their primary means of covering those, essential things, expenses that we need: groceries, rent, utilities, and then they try to pay it off at the, when it's time to pay it off without getting that interest. But that doesn't work out all the time. So they're seeing it as a shift, that where credit used to be a convenience, now it's being treated as a necessity, because of this high inflation that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's very serious when you got to use credit or a loan just to meet your basic spending needs. That's something that's serious and needs to be looked at. And I'm like you, I changed my shift to credit cards too. I used to do the points for money, but now I do the points for like airline miles. So I got to put that aside and can have that for the flights, because I did it for years for the I said, well, let me switch it up and see, if this will work. So I've been doing it lately for the airline miles, and we'll see if it's something worth doing. But yeah, this is a real interesting topic, and that's basically what I had to say. I had one other thing to say, but I think it's a bank. I think it's Bank of Whittier. They one of the presidents called me last week. He wants to work with our masjid. He said they got 3.7% on our checking accounts, a new program. So I'm gonna talk to him this week or next week, inshallah, to see what he's talking about, to give 3.7% back on your checking account.
Wow.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalam. Yes, sir. Brother Wayne, you get your hand back up?
Yeah, I did the points on the credit card, and I used it for a hotel stay, and it kind of worked out. So what I do right now is I actually make sure that there's a certain amount of money that I spend on my credit card, because what I was doing was I was just using my debit card, and I'm not getting anything when I use my debit card to make my purchases. But I'm saying that at least when I use my credit card and do the purchases, that I get points, and then the points that I'm able to accumulate, I'm able to go ahead and use those points for hotel stays or airplane flights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, that kind of works out.
Another interesting thing that's going on now. So many people are using debit and credit cards and are not using cash, right? So what has happened before, when you use your debit or credit card to pay the store, the fulfilling entity that fulfills the credit cards or debit cards would deduct from the store 2.5%, 2.9%. So when you spend $1 at the store only gets 97 cents, because they had to pay the fulfillment cost. That wasn't so much of a problem back in the day, when the stores were getting maybe 25, 30% of their transactions with cards. But now, I got clients, restaurant client, right? And he might have $20,000 paid to buy food at his restaurant, because I do the sales tax. So he might have taken in $20,000. And because he has to absorb the fulfillment part, he would only get maybe $18,700. And the rest of it goes to the fulfillment company. For those of you that might have a business, or you might understand that. You might know that happens because out of your, when the credit card company, fulfillment company, sends that money that they collected to your account, they deduct that fee from you. Well, since so many people are using credit or debit cards, that is affecting the stores, the entity's bottom line, right? So what they're doing now is if you use a debit or credit card, they make you cover that fee for them. Has anybody noticed that? So they're passing that cost on to you.
Yes, sir.
You noticed that, right?
Yeah, they charge us 3%. Like you say, they may be paying 2.5, 2.7, but they're charging us a flat 3% increase when you use your credit. So
You're
yes,
using
sir.
your credit card. Because they said, we're tired of covering this. We're going to make the consumer cover that. right? So now, and many of them did it because it became too costly for them. And they don't want to go up on their food prices too much. That might be a selling point for them, but we have this amount that you're going to charge. So it makes a difference. So now the consumer is paying that. And they're treating consumers the way they always treat consumers. Right? Because just like on sales tax. And I'm not sure if they got sales tax in Texas. I know that they don't have income tax in Texas, but y'all pay sales tax in Texas, Ishmael?
Yes, sir. We just don't pay state tax. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now Ishmael, consider that. You go to the store and buy something. And the store charges you sales tax. That's another thing. Why they call it sales tax? You ever thought about that? Since you pay it and you didn't sell nothing, you bought something. Why don't they call it buy tax? That makes sense?
Yep, you try to get those workers in trouble, but yes, it makes sense.
And I went to a store and they talking about sales tax. I said, I ain't selling nothing. You sold something. Why don't you pay it? Of course, they looked at me like I was crazy, but I'm always doing that. But see, they can do consumers like that because they know consumers don't think that way. Right? They don't think that way. And it's all in terminology. I don't know. Well, just think about it now. But that's the environment we live in right now. That's the environment we live in. And we know from the business establishment, morality has gone out the window. Morality has been gone out the window. They're not trying to do what's best for you. Right? And not saying, but at least admit to it so we feel better about it. Don't just bury everything in this stuff, and because they know the average consumer, the average consumer is so consumed about acquiring stuff, and they're consumed about satisfying their appetites. And we're not talking, of course, we're not talking about just physical appetite. We're not talking about for your stomach, whatever. But it's an appetite to have stuff. And that's what they appeal to. They appeal to appetite. That's what this social media and all this stuff is about. I mean, I'm getting to the point I hate to Google stuff to get information on stuff, but I do that, and y'all can check it out and be sensitive to it. Go on Google or go on some other. They have other things. They got Edge. They got other things, and search for a product, and then go on YouTube or go on Facebook. And all you got is stuff, I mean, that you just Googled yesterday, and all you see is advertisement on what you just Googled yesterday. Now I know it's like that because I was looking for something on and it was something that's not normal. And I went on and they had 3 or 4 ads on that thing I was looking at. And I wasn't looking at it to buy it. I was looking at it trying to get information on it. And then they came back on to sell this to me. YouTube does the same thing. Now, if you pay for this premium part of that, you're gonna get no advertisement. Why should I pay $16.95 a month? Which is like, it might not seem like much, but it's the cumulative effect. $16.95 here, $9.95 over here, $5.95 over here. By the time you add all that up every month, you're paying $100 that you don't need to pay. So I'm like this. I'll stop getting. If they say premium, I vote it like the plague. I vote it like the plague. But again, it's the idea is for them to take money out of your pocket. That's the idea. And I take it personally. That I'm not gonna let you take more money than you should out of my pocket. My job is to keep my money in my pocket. Your job is to try to get money out of my pocket. The only question today is who's gonna win. That's the question. Who's gonna win this battle? And for the average American consumer, they are losing. They're losing big time. Brother William, yes, sir.
So what do you think about this whole idea about appetite and accounting and finances and social media as far as our children are concerned? The younger generation. They got generation Alpha, generation Mega. They had X, Y, and Z, and these are the ones that were part of the social media platform, but. I think that they're able to take even more money out of their pockets, especially as far as social media and these delivery conveniences that they give to people with delivering their food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your thoughts?
Man, it's terrible. They don't have a chance unless they have some guidance. Unless they're put those guardrails have to be in place. And the guardrails that Allah gave us, it's made clearer in the Quran, in the life of the Prophet. They have to be in place. Absent that, they are in trouble. They're in trouble. Right? And in this environment, they're in trouble.
One more point, Brother M, before you take the next caller is this, just to let everybody know, is that, and I don't know if it's happening all over the country, but I know that in New York, I had a doctor's appointment, and I went there, and to have my procedure done, and they said, well, look, we got to ask you a couple of questions. We were asking everybody this, but are you feeling stress at home? Are you financial? No, I'm not. Well, are you financially? I mean, because we can give you therapy. But I said, no, I'm good. I'm fine. But it seems like a lot of people are under stress to this degree that when people go to the hospital now, or the doctors, or these are questions that have to be that they ask. And I'm saying that that's what's happening in New York.
Well, I'm sure it's happening all over, brother. Believe me. And those are real pertinent questions, because a lot of people are allowing the stress that they're under to take them out, to make bad decisions, right? That is affecting their families. And I mean, I'm meeting with clients trying to do their taxes, but during the course of the conversation, I think I'm in a hospital talking to a client. I mean, I get discussions. I don't want to talk about it, right? And our sister Gail, I see it. I'm gonna come right to you in a minute. But had a client last week. And it was Yeah, must have been the weekend. Anyway, he came in. I did his taxes. I had been doing it for several years. And this year, his wife wanted to file separate. And so at the end of doing his taxes, I had to complete. And I said I said something about his wife that maybe they were broken up or whatever. And I was wrong. They're still together. And then he opened up about his wife. She's 56 years old. And she's on social media. Right? And she hangs out on there. She'll go out with the girls. And lately she's been gone. She was gone for like 2 days. The girls hanging out, having a good time. And I mean, that sounds like one of the movies I see advertised on YouTube and stuff. She's acting that way. 56 now. She don't have to work. He takes care of the family, takes care of her, and she's getting crazy. Believe me, I stayed out of that conversation. I reserved my comments because nah. But they're going through that. I can see if she was maybe accepted if she was like 20, 26, 27, but she's 56 years old. And if he says bye, where's she going? With that mentality. So it's out there, it's happening. I'm not sure how widespread it is, but I can imagine it's more widespread than we think about it. And especially in our community, it can be a curse. I don't know. So, Sister Gail, yes, ma'am. Unmute yourself, Sister Gail. I guess she'll be back in a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
I think one of the greatest things that Imam Muhammad brought to our attention was subliminal seduction. And that plays out in all realms of our society in here in America, now all over the world. But everybody above someone else wants to pass their expense down to the next person. You can't even pay, like before they would encourage you to use your debit cards. Now, when you go to to pay your sewer bill, anything, if you use a debit card, if you don't pay cash, you have to pay that fee that you all were talking about, because everybody passes it on to the person below them. And it's just, it's just a terrible effect that we're in. So the only thing that we can control is what's in our control. And the credit cards for people that have money to leave it, the cards to pay them off every month, they're the benefits. But the average person, first of all, you can't get a credit card like that unless your credit scores are so high. They have now they have an annual fee for a card. You miss one payment and it might start out like 2.9. You miss one payment, you have to pay a late fee, and then your interest rate goes up to like 25 or 30%. The interest is so high on some of these cards. And then you get into this cycle, because when you pay your pavement, say you have you're trying to pay it off, but the majority of your money goes to the interest first. So if you're paying a payment, say of $100, 75% of that may go to the interest. So it takes you forever. They do have on there how to get out of that, like in 3 years. But the how the system is set up, they want the average person to stay in there for 10, 15, 20 years so they can get all this money, all this interest from them, this excessive interest. So it's a vicious cycle that we're on. And the only way that we can help turn it around is for everybody to be more conscious of their spending. But at the same time, like you said, they draw you in to want to spend money, spend, not save, spend, because they don't give you enough. When you want to leave your money in the bank, they want to use your money, but they want to pay you less for using your money. And when you use their money, they want you to pay more.
Yeah, and that is something that has been out there a long time.
Yes,
Now,
yes,
with us as Muslims, just this idea of riba, an exorbitant amount of interest,
yes,
that's how that would save us. And in all truthfulness, a lot of the like Kiyosaki and other people like that have come up with a game plan to say that these high interest schemes are not designed to save us money. It's not a wealth creation strategy.
right.
So you don't, and I know you said it's subliminal. Today it's not subliminal, it's open. It's so open, it's a shame. It's not
Yeah,
subliminal.
but it's a little bit of both, because
Well,
they still, you don't see it. It's so much stuff is hidden from out of the knowledge of the person, of the a lot of the people. And
well,
even
that's because the average American lacks an adequate financial education. That's all. It's not
right,
subliminal. They just don't know. It's not hidden. The average person is just not aware that they're being scammed that way because they lack an adequate financial education. That's one of the things that we're trying to do with Graceline community is to increase financial education so we can make better choices.
yes,
As long as we understand we don't have to make the choices that we make. And for us as Muslims, we should be more attuned to that. Yes, Ishmael, you got something you want to say, brother?
Yeah, just real quick. I put a credit score chart just based on what y'all saying in the chat. That's talking about exactly what we're talking about now and how we need to change our focus.
Yes. And it's happening. That's why I'm glad we're doing what we're doing at Graceline to increase financial education with people and come up with ways. We have workshops. Brother Omar's come up with some great workshops that we can teach that to people so they can make better choices. And that's the key right now. Make a better choice. You don't have to fall victim to these things. I mean, that whole thing about what banks are doing with credit cards and savings accounts. I mean, that information has been around for a long time, even before I came around. It's been around. So for people not to heed that information today in today's environment, there's something wrong. Maybe they become intellectually lazy, or maybe they're so engulfed in their situation that they don't know how to get out. And believe me, when you talk about money, nobody's going to come to a workshop and ask a question because they really don't know. They don't want you to know how bad a shape they're in. So I tell the people, when you come to a workshop like this, I always talk about your broke cousin.
Mm-hmm.
So they would want to look at you funny. And everybody got a broke cousin. Sister Mira, yes, ma'am.
Assalamualaikum. Could you give us some information on that Graceline entity that you're speaking of?
Graceline community.
Mm-hmm.
I got my good friend Edward. Edward, you got anything handy you can share with the people? Edward stepped away. we have a website.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Did you have a direct question for me, Brother Adam?
Well, sister, did you hear Sister Mira?
I heard you guys. I had stepped away for a second and heard my name and turned around. So I did know that you had mentioned Graceline.
She wanted information on Graceline. So can you give her the website right quick?
Yes, it's GracelineCommunityInc.org.
Sister Mira, you have you can get to the chat, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. See if it's Graceline. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. All right. No, I can't. I'm a little slow on that. Sister Gail, you had a comment or question? Sister Gail Muhammad, you got your hand up? Yeah, she didn't know. Okay. So let me, Graceline Community Inc.org. Yes, I have it in the chat. And you can go there as a start. Now from there, if you have any questions and anything, you can type them, send a question on the website. We do. I'm not sure when the next workshop is going to be. I know it's one coming up, and we have a call every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and not a call, but a Zoom meeting. And you're more than free if you can give me your email address. We'll get that to you so you can join us if you like. Yeah.
You want that now? You want that now? Email?
Man.
Oh, you want? Okay. Amira, AMIRAH.
Oh, you're good. Can you put it in chat?
Yes, sir. I will.
Please, man.
Yes, sir.
Sister Gail, you back?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Is the Graceline Credit Union, is it operational yet?
It's not a credit union right now. We have to go through the steps with the National Credit Union Association to be approved, and we have not been approved yet. We can't advertise as a credit union because we're not, but it's a working process.
And this is not to take anything away from us as Graceline, but in the community where I live, these credit unions are popping up. What is holding us back? There is like 15 or 20 every time I ride down this one road, there's another credit union. So I'm wondering what's holding us up with our credit union.
Well, can I answer that, Adam?
Yes, sir.
So what you're seeing, Sister Gail, is you're seeing branches of existing credit unions that are moving. Now, last year in 2025, in the United States of America, there were 2 new credit unions that were chartered. The year before, there was only 1 that was chartered. It's a long, hard process, but you will see, because of the need in especially African American communities, Hispanic communities, some Asian communities out west, credit unions moving in where there are no banks, where you don't have Chase, you don't have Wells Fargo, you don't have Citibank, so on and so forth. Branches of credit unions that are moving in. But there are very few credit unions that are being chartered. And they're slowing it down because the banks don't like credit unions.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say if it was that easy, more people would do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I thought it might be easy because more people.
No.
It's very difficult, and we're actually Graceline community. We're in the process of really investigating taking over, and I hate to use that language,
That's
but
okay.
assuming management of some failing credit unions,
Okay.
just to speed the process up for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. But here we have PNC, we have Huntington Bank, PNC.
PNC is not a credit union. That's my
No,
bank.
no.
That's
Yeah,
my
That's not
commercial
credit union.
bank.
yeah, I'm
But I'll
saying
tell you what we do have, it's time for Imam Yusuf Ramadan.
Oh, wow.
It's
okay.
9:00 a.m.
So when is the meeting for
Inshallah, Sister Gail, we had to go. It's
the
time for
credit
Imam.
union meeting is on Sunday at what time? You said 9:00?
11:00 a.m. Eastern. All right. I'm gone. Brother Yusuf, Ramadan.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum,
alaikum.
brother.
Walaikum assalam. How are you, brother? Good
Doing
topic.
good, doing good.
Topic. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah Rahim. That is peace be unto you with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We'd like to welcome everyone to New Day for Islam in America. American Muslim 360 edition. The number one Islamic platform in America. We'll put it that way, since we're not Blog Talk Radio anymore. And this is the program that deals with current events and trending topics, issues of concern from the Muslim perspective. And as we always say, the Muslim perspective is and always should be the human perspective. So, very good topic, as usual, because we certainly have to find alternative ways. And I say alternative ways, I'm not excluding anything. We need to have both and, you know, uh, alternative ways to control our finances and enhance our finances, and but also realize, we want to do things according to the as the brothers were saying, we want to be in compliance with the law, but we have to also learn to think for ourselves and think outside of the box. If you just follow the script that they give you, their script is designed to keep you, you know, disempowered. You have to learn, ways to empower yourself, and you certainly have to get educated. They have the new jargon, financial literacy. They have this new jargon now. A few years that they've been uh, uh, promoting it with the Robert Kiyosaki's, and now we have uh, many with the proliferation of the internet and the podcasts, and we have many experts in quotation marks, and some of them are, I'm sure, experts. Certainly, they have knowledge that many of us don't have, but it's become it's a cash cow for them. They're going to tell you how to get rich. They're going to give you financial literacy, but you have to pay them for it, which is good if they're giving you something of value that you are able to grow from, you know, enrich yourself from in knowledge and also uh, in dollars. So we have to be we can't wait. We have to do things. We can't wait for them to give their imprimatur. You may not be able to advertise as a credit union, but you can still come together and do things to enhance your situation. You have to. You have to. If you're just waiting for their permission, they're never gonna give it to you because they don't want to see you. You have, as Brother Edward said, the banks don't like credit unions. Why? Because they are competition. But they particularly don't like us to be in a situation where we are independent from them, or certainly a credit union is not going to make you independent from them, but they don't want you to have any level of independence from relying on them for all of your financial needs, So we know that there's other ways to come together and collective purchasing and things of that nature. Put your money together. You don't need their permission to do that. We should do both. We have to do both while we're waiting for them to approve us and say, okay, you can go forward. There's other things that we can do, and we have to do that. We have to do that because we can't wait. We don't have time to wait. We have to make money. My father had a saying, it's good to hope for breakfast in the morning, but you have to earn dinner tonight. You got to eat tonight. What you going to do in the meantime? While you waiting for this, for something to come through. You got to earn something. And this is what I tell people that, we don't, we got into this discussion before, and we talked about the businesses that we had during the Nation of Islam days, and the good parts as well as the parts that weren't so good, that didn't help us, that not good accounting procedures, that we didn't follow best practices with accounting, and people didn't keep up with their withholding taxes and things of that nature. And the government will allow you to go forward for a while and dig a deep hole for yourself, and then they'll come after you. So we do need financial literacy. We need business acumen. We have to have business acumen, But a lot of big businesses were built from people who did not have all their I's dotted and T's crossed. And they got to that stage, they crossed that bridge when they came to it. You have to start somewhere. You just can't keep sitting on the sidelines, and waiting, because the bills are ever present. So, if you have a need, it's like we talk about the McDonald's. McDonald's, they were saving over 1 billion served, 20, 30 years ago. Well, they didn't invent hamburgers. They just came up with a different way to deliver those products, So we have to, and then we have to follow, if we follow the procedures, as Imam Adam was saying about trying to avoid, do our best. We live in a riba environment, so we have to find ways to minimize. We can't take ourselves totally out of it, because otherwise you won't be able to engage, because it's built upon riba. It's built upon riba, but you have to find ways to minimize it as best you can, moving forward. And we've been doing that for some time, but you have to also realize that there's a financial system in place. The financial system is in place for a reason, and it's not designed to have a even playing field. It's not designed for come one, come all, may the best man win. No, it's not designed for that. It's designed to keep the people who are in a superior financial situation, to keep them in that place, to keep the status quo. If you don't realize that, you need to do a little. You need to do a little research. I know a brother who went into the fur business. He became a furrier. He made a little money from one area, and he opened up a fur shop. In Queens. In Jamaica Avenue area. They used to have a place called the Coliseum. Well, the people who didn't look like him, didn't look like us, don't look like us, that were already in the business, he wasn't going out in the woods and trapping and catching animals and skinning them and making furs. He was buying them from wholesalers. Well, the other people, the other retailers who would have been his competition, contacted them and asked them, how much money is he spending with you? Oh, he's spending $200,000. Well, we spend $2 million with you. Don't sell him no furs, or you're gonna lose our business. That's the way business works in America. I hate to explain it to you that way. I hope it don't hurt your feelings, but that's what it is. That's what it's about. It ain't no best man win who builds a better mousetrap. Is that's not the American marketplace. It don't work that way. Okay? And I was just explaining to a brother, when I first went into the security products business. I first went into the security products business, you know, and our masjid, one of our masajid up in the Bronx, Taqwa Wa Jihad, we had two big uh, buildings up in the Bronx, up near Yankee Stadium. So one of the brothers who did security with me, security services, he, when they sold one of the properties to some folks, they put together uh, it was a home, a residential home for people with HIV and AIDS. So he was doing security there, and they needed some security products. Because, pretty rough area of the Bronx at the time. They wanted some metal detectors and walkie talkies and, different products that I had. So when I went up to interview with them, and they said, well, we have to, this is on a small scale, but I'm just giving it to you as an example, how it works on a large scale. When I gave them the prices, they said, well, we have to put this out to bid. So I said, oh, okay. I didn't know. They want you to be the lowest responsible bidder. It's not just the lowest bidder. That's why, you have to have a certain business model. When I was doing security services, I didn't bid on contracts. I didn't want to bid on contracts. And people said, well, you're losing out on a lot of business. Well, it's the lowest responsible bidder, but that wasn't my business model. My business model was I wanted to do security for the people that wanted me. Well, you cutting it down, man, Ramadan. You cutting it down. I wanted people that knew of my expertise in the area and didn't just want a generic security company. They wanted me. Well, that's not a good business model. Well, that's what you say, because I had a very successful business. If you're just looking for a generic company, I'm not interested, because I'm not going to compete against those people, because I'm not going to cut my prices down to the bone, where I knew some people, it looked as though they were expanding rapidly, but they weren't charging enough really to sustain their business. They were only charging enough to beat out the other people. So when the person told me that they had to go out to bid, he said to me, don't you know two other companies? So I'm like, I'm lost. What do you mean? Don't you know two other? In other words, he was telling me to rig the bid, to rig the bid. He was telling me to give two quotes from two other companies that were higher than mine. That's the way they do business. Okay. Now, is it universal? No. But if you're looking to go into if you're looking for them to be, everybody to be honest and above board, that ain't the way it works. We were just talking about the reflecting pool. We went to visit a brother in the hospital yesterday, and they had a reflecting, not exactly like the one in Washington, but the brother was pointing out to me. He said that's a reflecting pool, and we were looking through, and he said, and we were talking about the reflecting pool that didn't turn out so well. And I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that they charged $14 million, and guess what? They didn't put it out to bid. They gave it to a company who the person was a donor and a friend of President Trump. That's the way it works on big business. If you don't think so, hey, I feel sorry for you. I'm not saying that they are not honest people. I'm saying that, in fact, I've gotten contracts that they didn't put out the bid, because there's exceptions to the rule. The exception is if it's an emergency. So there was a municipal housing project that they gave me the bid to do this, that they gave me the contract to do security on, and their reason why they didn't have to put it out to bid was because they said there was an emergency situation with security. People had gotten harmed and things of that nature. And I had the same situation with a college that I worked at. This was not the municipal housing project, but a college in New Rochelle, Mercy College, and they have another campus, you know, in the Bronx, etc. So they had a stabbing. I remember it was a holiday. It was a holiday, and my son was still in high school. We were driving. They called. They said, "Oh, we got a referral because in the same town from the municipal housing people. They told me that to give you a call. In our dorms for the college, there was a stabbing, and we need security ASAP." What do you mean by ASAP? I mean tonight. And they told me that you could handle that. So I went straight there and spoke to them, and I was able to bring some people out there to do it. But what I'm saying is, you know, they tell there's the form that they tell you that it takes, and then there's the form that it really takes. Okay, that's the form that it really takes. Business is relationships. Business is relationships. That's why they tell you it ain't what you know, is who you know. Well, it is what you know. You got to know your stuff. You got to be able to do what you say you can do, allegedly, because we know that there's people that are incompetent that have positions that they don't deserve. We're looking right at the government. We're looking at people that are drunks, skunks, and they're in the highest positions. Okay, so the corruption, unfortunately, what we're looking at now in our nation, we're looking at a reflection. Donald Trump is a reflection of America, whether you want to believe it or not. He may not be a reflection of you and I, but he's a reflection of the moral disease that has taken over the country. And corruption is his own reward. Corruption, now they're talking about how the military stockpiles are low and how long it takes for them to replenish it. Why? We know, those of you who want to fight, who I hear you in your spirit, even though you're not saying nothing right now, I hear you fighting back against me in your spirit. They just asked for $1 trillion. They haven't passed an audit. The Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in God knows when. But they get more billions and trillions. Don't argue with me, argue with the facts. I know you don't like it, but I'm giving you real life. So where's that money going? Do you know that forget Iran, do you know that during the Iraq war, the war in Iraq, which they lied us into, not what Abby Phillips said, the intelligence was flawed. No, the intelligence was fraud, not flawed. Don't make excuses for them. Do you know that one time they sent listen to me good, with a B, $1 billion in cash, and the money came up missing? Now you know the money didn't come up missing, right? Somebody know where the money's at, right? All right. The whole government should have stopped and not moved up. Of course, I'm exaggerating. There was no investigation. Huh? Nobody went to jail. So they can't pass. So what I'm saying is, corruption is its own reward. The corruption with the defense contractors is that they deliberately overcharge for products. They deliberately overcharge for products all the time. And since those products cost so much, now they're saying, do the math. They're sending our arms and systems that we have are costing $4 million to make and taking a year or two. And the Iranians got $20,000 drones that they can put together in weeks. Do the math. Why is it taking so long? Not because that's the nuts and bolts of, but because people are making money off it. I see my brother William Kareem got his hand up. Assalamu
Yeah.
alaikum, brother William Kareem.
Walaikum assalam, brother Imam. Is it true that I'm trying to figure all this money that you're talking about. I'm like, where are they getting this money from? Is it true our tax money is paying for that?
Yeah, yes. I mean, we're. I think they said, and I'm going to look it up while I'm talking to you, but I think they said that right now we have a deficit, or we have a debt of 29. I'm going to ask. I'm going to go to AI of 29 or 30 trillion dollars. Okay. Now, for one thing, we have a Federal Reserve that prints money out of thin air. If you do it, you go to jail. That's called counterfeiting. But if they do it, that's what they're supposed to do. They just print money. So the more that you print money, the more money is in circulation. That means the money that's in circulation is worth what? More or less? Okay. So how much? I'm asking right now. How much is the national debt? Okay. How much is the national debt? Searching for U.S. national debt. $39.5 trillion. This, in, this includes debt held by the public, Treasury securities owned by individuals, companies, pension funds, the Federal Reserve, and foreign governments, intergovernmental holdings, money one part of the federal government, such as the Social Security trust funds, is owed by another. A few additional points come from context. The debt has grown from about 35.3 trillion in mid-2024 to roughly 39.5 trillion by June 2026. Now, those are not real numbers. What do I mean by that? When I say they're not real numbers, who of us can understand what that even really means in real time, dollars and cents? But the money, they just print more money, print more money, print more money. That's what you call de-dollarization. That's what devalues the dollar. That devalues the dollar. So you can put a band-aid on something, say, well, where's the money? And print some money and use that. But the whole world is looking at us, like the whole world is looking at the situation in Iran. So you can lie to the people and say we obliterated them. Their navy is sitting at the bottom of the ocean, and the president said, "Whoa, we defeated them in 2 hours." But you have people like China and Russia and North Korea and India, and people are looking at this. They're not Americans. They know better. They don't care if you're dumb enough to believe what he told you. That doesn't matter to them. They're not moving on what he says. They're moving on what they know. They're not showing you the American bases that have been destroyed by Iranian missiles. Why? It's classified. They don't allow you to see it. They're trying to keep from you how many people have been killed. You believe only 18 American service people have been dead? Okay. But we don't just have people in uniform over there. We have contractors too. Now, either you believe that the Iranians are so inept that they can only kill 18 of us while we kill thousands of them. Either you believe that, or you believe that they're massaging the numbers. They just had a person from the UN ambassador saying that there was 100 people wounded. Those are called casualties too. And the congressman told him to his face, "You're telling a lie. There's 400 or 500 wounded." And then Trump said, "Yeah, they were wounded, but they backing out. Oh, so they just got hangnails." So either the American military is at risk over there or they're not. Either they can or they can't be killed. Either they're facing danger or they're not. Which one is it? So we have to wake up. And if we bring it down on the micro level, we have to get Allah does not love the spendthrift. They've got us too, Muslims, addicted to spending, buying things. Every time you open the door, you got a package on. Some of us, I mean, we just can't stop spending because when you use a credit card, you don't feel like it's real cash. You don't have to pay for it now. You just keep adding to the debt, adding to the debt, adding to the debt. So the American government, you know, uh, uh, the American government has accumulated this, and now I'm going to ask them how much credit card debt, huh? Do Americans have credit card debt? How much do we have? The credit card debt, as of the most recent available data, Americans owe about 1.2 trillion in credit card debt. This refers to the total outstanding balances on credit cards across U.S. households. Here are a few key figures. Total credit card debt about 1.2 trillion. Average balance per cardholder roughly $6,500 to $7,000. And if it's that low, you're doing good. Though this varies widely by income, age, and spending habits. Share carrying a balance. Around 45 to 50% of credit card holders carry a balance from month to month. The rest typically pay the statement balance in full and avoid interest. It's also useful to distinguish between credit card debt and the national debt. The national debt, about 39.5 trillion owed by the U.S. federal government. Credit card debt, about 1.2 trillion owed by consumers to banks and other lenders. Okay, so we have to get that spending under control. Our appetites are not being checked by knowledge. We see it, we want it. Huh? We see it, we want it. Kanye West, when he was still halfway sane, he wrote a brilliant song called Insecure, you know, and talking about how, he spent money that he didn't have, huh? And bought jewelry and things that, non-essential items, ridiculous items and Muslims, we're guilty of that too. We fall into that too, buying things that we don't need. So now I'm going to give us a little snippet on the capitalism myth. Huh? The fake philosophy. There's fake philosophy behind it. I'm not talking about mom and pop. Where you open up, the good thing that we had during that Nation of Islam time is that, we went out there and opened up businesses. We didn't have a $150,000 line of credit. We didn't have no credit. We didn't have a 50-page business plan. We opened up the store and started making money and paid bills. And I'm not talking about the downside. I'm talking about, some of them were profitable. Some of them were profitable. I'm not just talking about the ones that Imam Adam was referring to that had non-profits opening up a business. There were some that were owned by individual owners. Okay. Now, were corners being cut? Yes. One person, and I won't name them, but they had a successful business for decades. But they were paying the brothers that worked in there below minimum wage. Below minimum wage, you know. So, these are the things that we have to reconcile when we're talking about systems. They have us locked into socialism bad, socialism, communism, same thing. Well, socialism is an economic uh, 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 condition. Huh? Socialism is economics. Communism is political, but they are allied. They are allied, but not necessarily so. But they've already told us communism bad, socialism bad, capitalism good, capitalism equals democracy. It doesn't, but that's what they claim. That's their claim. So this is the great Michael Parenti on this topic.
As I said, no ruling class rules nakedly. All of them make up, they take strenuous efforts to justify their rule. I tell students when they say, oh, they don't care what we think, they ignore us and all that. I say, oh, no. That's the only thing they care about you. The only thing they care about you is what you're thinking. They don't care if you eat correctly. They don't care how your living conditions are. They don't care that they've built up an inhuman and irrational traffic system that's strangulating us and polluting our air. They don't care about anything. The only thing about you they care about is what you're thinking. In the morning, they start, what's going to be the story today? How do we manipulate? How do we control? How do we contain? How do we influence? How do we act upon what it is that they have?
Now let me stop it there, because this is a point that I was talking about to my wife the other day. We talk about capitalism and how great American capitalism is, and we make cars, right? We make cars, and the Chinese make cars, the Koreans make cars, the Germans make cars, of course, the Italians. How many cars are we gonna make? Think about the ecology. Do you think that there's an unlimited amount of cars that could be sustained, not only on the highways with traffic and air pollution, huh? How many? Is there anybody that's thinking, we've already got cars piled up in junkyards, huh? They already have congestion pricing in New York, that they charge you so much money to go into Midtown in order to keep the traffic out of there, because sometimes it took 2 hours to go from the east side to the west side in New York and vice versa. But capitalism says if they're going to buy it, make it and sell it. Don't worry about that. Don't think about that. Well, that's not my job. That's for the politician. My job is to make a vehicle that people want and people like, and buy it and make me rich. I don't care whether it's the Tesla. I don't care which one it is. Is there anybody thinking in that sense that there has to be a finite number of cars manufactured in the world? You just gonna keep making cars every year? Oh, that's a 2006. Well, the 2007 is out before 2006 is even over. Is that a sustainable plan? I'm trying to get you to think outside of that monetary. Well, I sell cars. Sure, I'm not blaming the salesman that has to pay his mortgage and buy groceries for selling a car, but I'm saying, where is the plan? Where is the plan? Huh? Where's the plan?
Modern capitalist societies avoid telling the truth about themselves. Instead, we get those rag to riches mythologies, the Horatio Alger stories, myths about fair play, equal opportunity, self-reliance, freedom, liberty, all those kind of things that they feed us again and again. A system that's been so productive and so wonderful and the like. The two fundamental myths of modern corporate capitalism that I want to treat are the myth that capitalism creates a general prosperity and a well-being, material well-being. That's myth number one. Myth number two, that capitalism creates or bolsters democracy. We even hear the phrase capitalist democracies, Western capitalist democracies and the like. Let me start with the one about prosperity. Before I get into that, there's another secondary myth I want to put aside. When I'm talking about capitalism, I'm talking about giant corporate capitalism, okay? I'm not talking about mom and pop small businesses. We're talking about transnational corporations and banks. Lenin himself dealt with that question. He said 10 million small businesses count for nothing. A few giant cartels count for everything. It wasn't that he was dismissing or thinking less of the small. He was talking in terms of power.
Now, obviously we know, and some of us have done it ourselves, that you can open up a business and be successful. That's not what he's talking about. That's micro on capitalism. Okay? And even with that, in the early 90s, when here in New York, and my company was one of them, there was a flourishing of Muslim-owned security, black Muslim, us, security companies. And it was so much so that we had to come together to put together some regulations, because we were actually horning in on each other's businesses. We were cutting each other's throats. Yeah, the Muslims. We were cutting each other's throats for contracts, low bidding, and etc., which Islam forbids. Now, physics tell you that no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time. So when we were getting contracts, other companies, white-owned companies, weren't getting them by necessity. If you're in the space, somebody else can't be in the space. They passed the Security Guard Act of 1992 that was really put together by an ex-cop named Bo Dietl, who I know, who claimed that he solved the Son of Sam case, which he did not. That was a beat cop that solved that case, the Son of Sam case, that you all may know about, with the 44 caliber killer that was going around shooting people. And because of a traffic violation, that cop solved it. But Bo Dietl had a security company. I don't know if he still has it, but he was tight with the governor, Governor Pataki. He got Governor Pataki to get that bill passed, Security Guard Act of 1992, that said if you had that you couldn't work in even have a security guard if you had a felony conviction, and even if you had a misdemeanor, the only way you could do it is with the permission of the Secretary of State. So you think there's a laissez-faire market? Laissez-faire means, a free market. What they sell as a free market, open market, laissez-faire, huh? If they find out that there's a laissez-faire, they're gonna do something to stop it. No, they're not trying to compete. May the best man win. Build a better mousetrap. That's what they sell you. And I'm telling you that it made it hard that we couldn't, brothers that were trying to get their life together, we couldn't hire them. We couldn't legally hire them because they had records. So what are they supposed to do? Go back to jail? Laissez-faire means leave it alone. They have never left it alone, and they never will. I'm talking about the marketplace. They're not going to leave it alone. Huh? Yeah. They passed that. And I know because they did a movie about him, Bo Dietl. Look it up. Don't trust me. Called One Tough Cop. That's the name of the movie. He has his own security company. You know who did the security on his film? Me. I did the security. So I know what I'm talking about. I know him well. Okay? We were getting so many contracts. We had about 8 or 10 Muslim-owned security companies in New York that we were getting some big contracts at the time doing residential for big places like Co-op City. I mean, big contracts. One brother got a $7 million contract. One of his contracts was $7 million. I know because I was there when we were in the Masjid. He had got a $7 million contract. We were in the Masjid in the Bronx, and they had another contract, a much smaller contract, in Coney Island, out in Brooklyn. I was there when they called looking for the owners of that company. The governor's office called. Why? Because Minister Farrakhan's group, brothers that were a part of the Nation of Islam, they had the contract in Coney Island. And one of the Zionist city council people found out about it, and he called the governor's office and told them that we need to get rid of that company. It was a state-owned property. I was there, and the $7 million contract was so big that the brother said, "We don't have the man. We can't do it right now. We're busy trying to fulfill this $7 million contract. We can't do it." And I told him, "No, don't turn it down." It was another brother that I had encouraged to go in business. Give it to him. So they gave it to him. They gave it to him. And what happened was that city councilman, he called the governor's office, and the brothers from the Nation of Islam were doing a good job. They were doing a good job. Called X-Men Security. That was the name of the company, X-Men Security. And the governor's office told them, "Well, what's the problem? We heard from the tenants and the building manager, they're doing a good job." And that city councilman said, "Well, that's going to be on the front page of the New York Post tomorrow, that you said Farrakhan's group is doing a good job." And the governor said, "You misunderstood me. What I meant was they got to be out of there by midnight tonight." So I'm not, this ain't no theory. I mean, I'm a businessman. You think I'm knocking business? I don't work for nobody. I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not knocking business. I'm just trying to give you a realistic view on business. Don't have this starry-eyed, pie in the sky view of business and how it works. That's how we got it. And the brother who I encouraged to go in business, he asked me to run it because he didn't really have no experience. He just opened up, he started the company, but he didn't have no business. That was his first contract. And I hired and everything. Then they put us, I kept some of the brothers on from the Nation of Islam. I kept them working. Why? Because number one, they were doing a good job. And they wrote an article in the paper, I'm trying to remember which paper it was, saying that the Farrakhan people are still working. So when the writer of the article called me, I said, "I don't know," which I did, but I told him, "I don't know what his religion is." That's not one of the questions we ask. Do people ask you that when you fill out an application for a job? What's your religion? It's illegal. I said, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know, but it's none of my business. He don't have a right to have a job if he's a member of the Nation of Islam? That's what I told him. They said, well, they're proselytizing. They're selling the Final Call newspaper, which they were, and I had to stop them from doing that on the property. So these are some of my experiences with business, and that's small business, comparatively speaking, because I told the brothers, you won't be able to. I was in business before them. I had more experience than them. There's no way in the world that $7 million contract up in the Bronx, there's no way in the world you're going to be able to fulfill that contract by yourself. You're going to have to call other companies, myself and others, to help you with it. But they were so greedy, they said, no, we can do it. I said, I know you can't. Because it was 33 men a day. 11 men on three 8-hour shifts. 11 men per shift was 33 men a day, which means that on the weekend, you have to have another 33 men because those men can't work 7 days a week. So I wasn't guessing. I'm telling them what I know. But they were so greedy, they said, oh, no, we got it. Now, if you got 33 men a day working, at least 10% of those men are going to bang out on you. Mean what? I can't come to work. I'm sick, or my wife is sick. They can't come to work. So now where you going to get the other 3 men from? You need help. All you need to do is share, and we can all make some money. I'm not naming the company, but if I mean the brother who, he's no longer with us, may Allah forgive me and send grant in paradise. But I'm telling you that I have experience in business. Believe me, I have experience in business. There was a residential thing, and that complex spanned a few city blocks in the Bronx. Let's continue.
where the power is, who's shaping the condition of our lives, who determines the quality of the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, the kind of jobs we can have, the images we have to deal with and such. That's not mom and pop. So I want to put mom and pop aside and talk about multinational corporate capitalism.
He's talking about international capitalism. So y'all getting confused. I'm the last man in the world to tell you that business don't work. I work for myself, always have. You couldn't give me a job as a floor walker in a phone booth. So you don't think I'm talking against business. Absolutely not. Business gave me a great life. Be able to take care of my family. I believe in business. I'm trying to give you a macro understanding about business. And I'm telling you that the people who are in the field that you're trying to get into, they're going to pull strings to keep you from getting in that field. And that's not the only one. The one that I'm talking about, the brother that was selling furs. That ain't the only one. That's what they do. They did the same thing to Imam Muhammad with the suits when we were trying to sell suits. They did the same thing to us with the shea butter. Where's Muhammad Shaheed? He know what I'm talking about. They sold us a bad batch of shea butter to ruin the business. We were going into Walgreens. We were going into all kind of places. So get this. You have to understand that the Japanese taught that business is war by other means. Business is war by other means. Don't come in there with no pie in the sky, stars in your eyes. If you're going into business, going into a certain field, that means you're going to take away possible customers from them. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you what I know. The brother recommended me. I've done big things in security. The U.S. Open. But I had to subcontract. A company from Peoria, Illinois. I'm not going to name them. A company from Peoria, Illinois, a white company, put in a bid for the U.S. Open and got a contract. The big security companies in New York City, they had a heart attack because this is an outsider. They're not even black. These are a white company. How did this guy from Peoria, Illinois, from a one-horse town, come to New York and beat us out on a contract? Big contract. They said, well, he beat us, but it'll never happen. I bet it'll never happen again. So the company subcontracted to me because they, even though they had the contract, they couldn't produce the manpower. They couldn't. They were putting ads in the newspaper for security guards. If 50 people showed up for the interview, when it came time to work, only 30 people came to actually work. So they had to subcontract to me. And they're always trying to steal your intellectual property. Well, how are you able to do this? Well, you want me to tell you so you can eliminate me? I'm not as dumb as I look, like Muhammad Ali used to say. I'm not going to tell you what I do. If I tell you what I do, you don't need me. Oh, your men are good. No, I'm good. I make sure that they do their job. You can't even get the people. They couldn't even get the people. I'm talking about at the U.S. Tennis Stadium, right out there in Flushing. And the U.S. Open is the biggest sports event of the year other than the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is only one day. Of course, the planning and everything takes months. But I'm saying the Super Bowl, that's over in one day. The U.S. Tennis Open goes on for weeks. So it's big. And security, when I tell you security was tight, they tried to do everything to get me out of there. They tried to steal our walkie-talkie. I'm talking about the other security people that we weren't the only company there. They tried to steal they stole walkie-talkies from my guys to make us look like we were inadequate. But of course, they got security cameras 24/7, night vision cameras too. They tried to steal my walkie-talkies at night. I said, let's go to the videotape. Oh, we were just kidding. You kidding about security? So I know that if you get the job, what you think they're clapping for you? You think they're happy for you? No, they wasn't happy for me. And they gave us some of the biggest companies that they had at the time. TWA, Lexus. We had Lexus, TWA. I'm trying to think of CBS. Yeah, the CBS people. Yes, Columbia Broadcasting Company Services. They even assigned my people to the box office where the cash was, because they trusted us because we knew what we were doing. But that don't mean they was happy with us being there. They was. Matter of fact, I told the brother the other day, it was during Ramadan. One year it was during Ramadan. And they were subcontracting us, but the company that came around and they had their guy going around telling us that we had to take a water break. And the brothers called me and said, hey, what is this man talking about? It's Ramadan. I'm not taking no water break. Your people have to take a water break. They have to hydrate. I said, well, we ain't doing it. This is Ramadan. Don't worry about what we doing. You take a water break. We good. So these are just some of the things that you have to deal with in business. That's just the way that it is. So I don't want to keep ranting in case somebody has a question or a comment that they want to make. But I'm just telling you, when I'm telling you the America the Ugly and America the Beautiful that the Imam talked about, I'm not just running my mouth. When I talk about capitalism in business, I'm telling you what I know. I'm not guessing. Brother Ishmael?
Yes, sir. Another powerful presentation. And I remember the Imam saying business is accuracy. It breaks down basically business is truth. So actually in business, like you're saying, you got to know your costs, you got to know your profits, you got to know the market, and you got to know your competition. And what I'm hearing from you, you're including all of this.
That's right.
Careful planning. It's not emotional. You double and triple checking and going back, and you love what you do, so you're gonna be accurate with it, and being accurate, being disciplined, being honest, like you were saying, whether they like it or not, being patient, and sometimes even making sacrifices. That's those things we've learned. That's a success for our soul. So we just incorporate it into our outside material world. So thank you for that.
Exactly right. Walaikum assalam. And brothers, we have guidance from the Quran and the life of Muhammad the Prophet. It says you should pay your worker while it's still sweat on his brow. 727-408. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yusuf, and alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody else. Brother Yusuf, you're a good example, bro, of a believer for the people in the community and the young people to look at. Praise be to Allah. Keep doing what you're doing. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. So don't think that I'm against business. I'm all for business. I've been a businessman ever since I was 13 years old. I'm gonna be in business, huh? But you have to know your business. I was on the call with the imams the other night, and they were talking about when brothers come home from prison and things of that nature. How they come to the community and whether they're welcome to the community. And I worked as a chaplain too in the prison, in the state prisons. And I told the brothers got upset with me, but I told them the truth. I said most of y'all ain't gonna come near a masjid when you get out of prison. Oh, who you think you ain't Allah? How you know what we gonna do? I know what my experience has been. Yeah, you dealing while you in here. But the majority of y'all, I said, and I used to do workshops to try to prepare them guys to come home. I said, what's the first thing you're gonna do when you get out of jail? I'm going to my parole officer. Okay, what next? I'm gonna try to get me a job. I say, no, the first thing you should do is go to the masjid and make 2 rakats for saving your dumb behind and getting you out of prison because you didn't have to get out alive. That's the first thing you should do. Huh? Oh, I'm gonna get married. How you gonna get married? You ain't even got a job. So they've been in there lifting weights and everything, so they think they look good. I said, what you got to offer a sister? Me, I'm offering me. No, that ain't enough, brother. You're supposed to take care of that woman and the children. So because you in shape and you think you look good, you think that, man, please. You got to get your mind straight. You got to get your mind together. You got to get your soul straight. Establish yourself in the masjid. But we have to have, I'm in business. We have to have jobs and things to give them, to keep them out of the streets, to keep them out of corruption. I gave brothers jobs when they came home. Oh, I thought you said that you couldn't hire them, Brother Imam, because they had a record. I found ways around that to give them a job, even though they had a record. And when I was talking, one of the imams said, I was one of them. I forgot that he worked for me. See, if the Muslim community, if we can't offer our young people jobs, what are we doing? What are we talking about? So don't think I'm talking against business. That's my middle name, business. I'm talking about capitalism as a whole, like Michael Parenti was talking about. I'm not talking about a mom and pop joint. I'm not talking about buying something for $1 and selling it for $2. That's common sense. You think you need to go to MIT or the Harvard Business School? You don't need that. I met my great-grandfather. I never met either one of my grandfathers, but I met my great-grandfather. And he didn't live too much longer. He had his own business in Harlem, selling fruits and vegetables. You think he had a business plan? Yeah, he had one in his mind. You think he had a 50-page business plan to give the Chase Bank? No, he went out, he had enough heart and enough courage to go out there and know, I got to take care of my family. So I'm going to buy these fruits and vegetables for one price and sell them for a higher price. You complicating this thing. Y'all making this thing too complicated. I'm not preaching against education and financial literacy. I'm saying don't let that stop you. Sometimes you got to learn as you go. I know I did. When I went into security business in the services, I never thought that sales tax was applied to service. I thought sales tax was only applied to products. I didn't know any better. Oh, well, you shouldn't have went in business until you knew that. That's what you say, but I was already making money. I don't care if you do have a PhD, MBA from Harvard. You don't know everything. You're going to learn as you go. So you got to start somewhere. Don't let these people intimidate you into think, oh, I don't have a PhD and I don't have a master's in I don't have a master's in business administration. I can't go into business. Don't be that stupid. Don't let these people intimidate you. We built some big businesses from the ground up. I always reference my brother, William Kareem, how he came up with Smirky Turkey. You mean to tell me you gotta have an MBA to make a sandwich and sell it? What is wrong with you? You think all these people in the business that have these non-African American businesses in our community, you think all of them got MBAs? You do? And you keep giving your money to them every day? And they selling you steak and take that we invented? Brother Ishmael.
Yes, sir. It just reminds me of a story of some immigrants. They own a store, and his brother said he had one of his friends that they grew up with, but by the time he got ready, he stopped going to school after high school, and he was like, man, he said, my dad said I got to learn this business. They're like, man, you're not fit to finish school. And he was like, well, no, I got to learn this business. But he had another brother that stayed in school and went to college to help expand the business, so they were doing both. Some left
That's
school,
right. That's
And
right.
so I'm staying and to improve it. So this is just what you're talking about. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to scale up. You have to have knowledge. You have to have education in order to scale up. I mean, you can't start an accounting business like Imam Adam, and you ain't went to school to learn. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying just because you're not an accountant or you're not a doctor, huh? You still have the obligation to take care of yourself and your family, don't you? You got to wait till you graduate. You can do both. People go to school and work at the same time. That's all I'm saying. Don't keep waiting for people to approve you for something. You got to approve yourself. You know, the Caribbean community have what they call susus and all that, where they loan each other, give each other money, and they take turns taking the money. They ain't got no charter from the banking department. American Muslim 360.
Oh, it's Martha Nyla. Alhamdulillah.
30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. Yes, and within the home health, I really literally took my granddaughter under my wing and taught her all the things, and then she went and got her document.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. That's right. That's right. They have to see you. What the point that I'm making about my great grandfather, that inspired me. And I didn't even know I was being inspired. This man is like, he got up 5 o'clock he was in the street 5 o'clock in the morning. Got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, got his vegetables and everything cleaned up, and he was out there, he had a little cart, and he was selling. Self-sufficiency. Don't wait for nobody to approve you to do that. Allah approves you to do that. So we thank everybody for listening. We went over the time a little bit. Thank you for calling in. We pray Allah that you have a blessed Jummah and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to keep you healthy and happy. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.